And da-da-da-da. Hi guys, and welcome to this part 2 live of Bricky's breakdown, basically, of the Warhammer universe and the factions. And this time we have Chaos and the Xenos. And Xenos are, of course, the alien factions. So this is awesome, and it's also very exciting as much as the first part was. So yeah, we have a long hour ahead of us. So yeah, hi to you, hi to the comment section, hi Clayton, dear Ivy, and Fraser. So thank you very much, guys, for waiting for me and all of those things. Now, because you know that this is a big undertaking, and yeah, I mean to take everything apart. Well, not taking everything apart, but comment on it, see what Brick is gonna say, react to it, all those things. I'm not going to pay attention to the comments as I usually am. Extremely interactive with the comments section. Yeah, I mean, otherwise we're gonna be here forever, and for those of you that are going to watch this recorded, I don't want for you to sleep. And I'm also gonna remove my watch because otherwise I'm going to get notifications like 10 times, and yeah, I just don't want to be distracted. So it's a good time for the watch to be recharged anyway. So without further ado, this time is we are sorry, this is live. We are going to start from the beginning. Last time some people commented that I didn't start from the beginning, but you just didn't need to, because he was like making a big introduction, so we got directly into the meat of things. This time he is getting into the meat of things faster, so are we. And hi to the Fiend. So, with that being said, let's just sink ourselves in this awesomeness and vast Warhammer 40k universe of the Chaos and the Xenos. So, yep.
In a two-part series on the Warhammer races. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, we do the Imperium of Man. You can check that out in the description, and I would highly recommend you watch that to get context for this episode. If you already have, go ahead and keep on watching. So after an entire episode of nothing but humans, we can now talk about chaos, which involves humans again, but a little bit less. We also got demons and shit.
I just felt someone grab my ass.
What?
Like hard, Nick.
So, as I've mentioned many times before, we discussed the
This is
warp,
awesome.
the Materium, the hellish landscape, the purgatory dimension realm between the material realm of our existence. Now, in the warp, it's terrifying, horrible. There are demons everywhere. Things are crazy. All your minds and thoughts and emotions get projected there. It is both formless and empty. It is vast and tiny. It obeys the laws of time and physics while simultaneously does absolutely nothing of the sort. It's a hodgepodge and a culmination of just unknowable, eldritch, horrifying shit. And there are 4 gods that permeate in chaos and the warp. These are the 4 major chaos gods. And if we wish to learn about chaos, we need to learn about each and every single one of these chaos gods. First up, we have Khorne, and he is the easiest. Khorne is your classic Satan. He is all about anger, murder, fighting, blood, guts, death. You ever heard the term blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne? That's Khorne. The whole idea is that he is all about the fury and strength of battle. He doesn't care where blood comes from, so long as blood is flowing. He wants to fight and murder and carnage and slaughter and death.
Jesus Christ.
Khorne. Very simple to understand. Next up you have Tzeentch, and Tzeentch is the god of change. However, the god of change, it permeates in so many different other ways. He's the most eldritch of all the demon gods. He has this weird way to always be plucking at the strings of the universe. He's always conniving and scheming and doing his best to cause as much little bullshit as he can. Tzeentch is unknowable. Everything that makes sense, he will and won't do. Every future and setting and every type of destiny or fate is all foretold and also changeable. It is set in stone while also completely random. He knows what everything is going to happen and also that none of it's going to happen. you would ask Tzeentch a question. That question
Oh,
leads
that's not confusing at all. It's just yeah, I just want to say, well, like I said, actually, that I'm not going to be able to check the comments all the time, but I don't play anything that resembles Diablo, just not a fan of this asymmetric style of, well, game. Only first person, third person for me, really. Well, sometimes strategies like Rome or something else, but I only played one before. It was exactly Rome or Rome 2, and I barely remember how that was played. So, yeah, mainly when I'm into the action, that's what I want to play. So, Diablo is not the type of game that I usually will play, so that's why I'm playing Warhammer Space Marine still. So yeah, but let's continue.
to 3 more questions. And those questions lead to the heat death of the universe, which asks 4 answers to those questions. And then he thinks to himself, what are questions even really? And are you even asking the questions? Or
Oh,
are you
no.
simply giving paths to answers and other horseshit?
Yeah.
Tzeentch is just, I'm gonna fuck with stuff. He is yes and he is no. He is the understanding and he is complexity. He is unknowable, and that's what the God of Change is about. Very bizarre, and he likes birds a lot. I don't know why. Next up, we got Papa Nurgle. Papa
no.
Nurgle, he loves you for who you are. Probably not. He will murder you just the same. But Papa Nurgle is about rot, pestilence, death, and decay. He is the end of everything. Him and Tzeentch do not like each other very much because where Tzeentch represents change and adjustment, Nurgle represents stagnation and death. He is all about miasma and pestilence and large bloat.
I just hate his
pus
guts.
and organs, and people just being sedentary, sloth. He is the idea that everything will rot and decay and die. Nothing is certain besides decay and death. All of us will end up the same way, and broken down through just sheer never-ending decomposition.
Jesus, that's,
so the joke that Nurgle always loves you is generally because of that, because we all end up the same. We all rot, and we all die and wither. That's Nurgle, and he's got a general theme of course, pestilence and different kinds of diseases and sickness and things like that. That's generally Nurgle. He's pretty easy to understand as well. And he chunk. Finally, we have the youngest of the Chaos Gods, and that is Slaanesh, also known as the Prince of Pleasure or the God of Unspeakable Excess. Slaanesh is generally referred to with sex. But it's not only sex, it's just that's a good avenue if you want to make stuff. Slaanesh is just the idea of the senses of the body being cranked to not just 11, but more like 17. See, we'll discuss Slaanesh a little bit more when we talk about the Eldar, because they done fucked up.
Yeah.
But he
is she.
It, or whatever, is mainly about just the excess of emotions. And therefore, sex is generally a large part of it. However, it's mostly pain and torture. Lots of pain, torture, but sometimes sexually related or drug related. Lots of drugs. Slaanesh gets off on everything. Extremes in happiness, extremes in sadness, extremes in pain and sadism and masochism. And of course that goes along with the sex part of it as well. It's generally referred to with sex because of the color scheme, very purple, lots of exposed genitalia. A lot of their models have like exposed nipples and stuff. And that is generally the theme you go for from a physical side, but it really embodies everything. Jesus. Mainly pain and also the excessive amounts of emotion. So when it comes down to it, you'll find a lot of them have things like spikes or whips or any kind of BDSM style gear because it is unspeakable excess, the Prince of Pleasure. Everything in excess to the point where it is just sheer frightening. That is Slaanesh in a nutshell. A little bit bizarre and a little hard to describe.
A little bit bizarre, really, because yeah, I watched the history of Slaanesh and how she came to be, and yeah, it's basically a combination of yeah, it's a long story. He will get to the Eldar, the race that basically led to the birth of Slaanesh, because they just dropped the ball on everything, and that is what created the possibility, so to speak, and environment, if you will, for Slaanesh to come to being. So imagine how strong that was to just birth a god. And yeah, okay.
Sometimes. But as we talk more about the Dark Eldar later in this video, you'll
Yeah.
understand it far, far better and far more than you'd want to. Now, you might be thinking, why would anyone ever want to join Chaos? They all look horrifying, screwed up, and just frightening things, right? Well, the thing is that, of course, one, your mind is put into the warp and the materium, so you can be easily swayed by chaos demons when they get into your head, especially if you're a psyker. Sometimes regiments of the less mentally strong people, whether they be civilians or, say, low-level guardsmen or conscripts, can be easily swayed by this and become chaos cultists and stuff, and they serve their dark gods and whatever god they personally prefer. However, and this might seem strange, chaos in their own right isn't necessarily evil.
Oh, come
See,
on.
the warp is every manifestation of emotion and being, every soul, everything of existence. This includes all the good things. All the different chaos gods have another side to their coin. Khorne might be death, murder, slaughter, slaughter, but he's also got this weird sense of survival of the fittest, trial by combat, and honor. Khorne will never lie to you. Khorne will never stab you in the back. Khorne isn't about conniving and scheming. Khorne is about straight up mano-y-mano, you versus me, get in the ring, we're gonna murder each other hard right now. It may not be a good thing at the end of the day, but it is that other side of the coin. Him and Tzeentch generally don't get along because Tzeentch is that conniving schemer, but he's also about the idea of hope. Where there is change for your predicament. There is change for your problem. The hope of the galaxy, the ability to bend the world to your will, the idea that your fate is not set in stone, but in reality that you control your own destiny and can control it whenever you want, the changer of ways. That is Tzeentch. And of course, Tzeentch and Nurgle hate each other because while Nurgle does represent stagnation, death, and decay, he also represents finality and ending. The fact that you can be mentally at peace knowing that you will end and how you will.
Okay, I just don't agree with the way that he put it, because yeah, the warp is a combination of everything and good included, but the gods are not the expression of good at all. They may have something, I mean, when you look at from the other side, that there's maybe like a positive thing to you know, their nature, but that is only because their nature, I mean, it's like, how to explain this? It's like just trying to find a good in something really, really, really bad, but it's still something really, really, really bad, you know? So it's only going to lead to the bad, and their agenda is always going to be, you know, the evil part of things. They're not going to lead you to the good and say, oh, just focus on the good side now, you know? In the warp, there's no a positive god, and that's just a fact. They're all bad in a very drastically end of the stick kind of a way. So, you know, if somebody, I mean, if a human being, like he said, can be easily persuaded, like the Royal Guard, for instance, because they're not as mentally strong, well, they're going to go to the bad side. They're going to be consumed by their fate, and they're going to be led by this completely, which is a bad thing. Whenever your willpower or your true essence gets dimmed and corrupted in some kind of a way, it's already evil. So you cannot say that they're not fully evil just because some of their ways of acting can be looked from a positive side that may or may not occur from, you know, their effects. So yeah, let's just elaborate on that. I think it's important, at least. It's important to, I mean, to see things a bit more zoomed out and not be like, oh yeah, they're not like so bad. Where no, they're very, very bad. They're very, very bad. There's not no such a redeeming quality to them whatsoever. It's just the side effect that maybe it's gonna be redeeming quality, but you're already going to be torn apart mentally, physically by this point. So, like, who cares? You know, the little positive effect that may or may not occur cannot overweigh the bad. That's the thing. And I see that there's new people in the comments, but we have to continue to break this down. But of course, welcome to crypto. I'm gonna read what you wrote as soon as I can. Well, I just don't agree with that. I mean, I just don't agree that they're not evil from the point of humans and aliens, because humans and aliens are sentient beings. So if their lives is corrupted or interrupted by somebody else without their consent, without their ability to, I mean, it's like if somebody comes and slaps you through the face, this is, breaking of your personal space and just doing something to you that you don't want to. So that is the definition of evil, basically. If somebody comes and do something to you and they are more aware of you, of their actions and what those actions means, that means that they are doing consciously something bad to you. The fact that you are less aware or more aware of that doesn't make it good that you are getting your face hit. So to me, you cannot say they're only bad from our perspective or from perspective of the aliens, because we are all sentient beings, aliens included, at least most of them. So now we're not going to get into each and every one of them and how intelligent they are. Like, for instance, the orcs, they're not that intelligent. But yeah, the point is that evil is when you do something to someone and is against their better judgment. Yeah, okay, let's continue with the video, because we're gonna be here all night if we have to explain every single thing, or just to give you how I perceive things now, learning on the lore and all of that. And it's very important how people understand everything that they read in general, because you can totally interpret everything the wrong way, even if it's like direct, like direct line. It says somebody is evil. You can like pick up another codex or book later and to read that, yeah, they're evil, but they're doing this, and you can be like, your mind could be led to think that, oh, now they're good, but actually no, this doesn't mean that they're good. This mean that there's other effect. But in their core and what they do, their actions and their agendas, everything is concentrated of interrupting other beings' lives and controlling them in some kind of a way, which is evil by definition. But yeah, let's continue.
Fear of the unknown, fear of change is not present with Nurgle. With Nurgle, everything will rot and die, and that provides that finality, that ability that this is over. We are all the same, and we will all end the same. We know the meaning of life. The meaning of life is to live and die and rot. And
Yeah,
with
that's
that, it brings peace of mind.
also not
Slaanesh is a
true.
lot more simple. While they are the excess of emotion, they are also the
Maybe he is to
representation
him.
of emotion. Slaanesh embodies happiness. Slaanesh embodies excitement and joy and pleasure, not only in the sense of the physical, bam style of pleasure, but also everything else like food and drink and
Yeah, to the extent, so you just eat and drink till you're dead, and Slaanesh will be so happy about this. Like,
air on your
literally.
cheek and sunlight, the feeling, emotion and feeling. All of that is also represented with Slaanesh. So you have to ask, why are they always represented as super evil skulls and spikes on everything and want to murder everybody? I don't really got an answer for you on that one.
Sorry, I do think that he just, I mean, to me, he doesn't get it. Like, why they're presented with spikes? Yeah, because they're evil. The good to, not the good, sorry, the road to evil is led with good intentions. Haven't you heard this expression? I mean, evil works through deception and through lies. They say something true so they can lead you to the real meat of things. I mean, to their agenda. So I mean, that is how freaking evil works. It's conniving, it's hidden, it's expressed in a lot of ways. All that are manipulation in some form, some shape or form. So yeah, Slaanesh is super, happiness and love, and you're so happy. You get drunk and you just throw yourself off a cliff. It's literally that. Yeah, I mean the initial start of everything when you start to have fun, that's like good, but then the more you go into it, the worse it gets for you, for your body, for your mind, and you end up just dying. Or somebody else gets drunk and just kills you with a bottle on your head. I mean, is that good? Started off good, but then it's worse. Oh, Jesus. I'm
My
gonna read
assumption is
everything later,
that
guys. Don't worry.
because mentally humans may think worse thoughts even if we don't act on them, and therefore they're projected in the warp more. That one's a little bit weird. I don't know. This is me spitballing right now, but I don't know. You need a super bad guy. You already got the Imperium of Man. You need somebody to be a little bit worse than them. So you got demons. Honestly, who cares? I just want to buy like a bird magician. Look at him.
That's cool.
So cool. So combining all this together, on the tabletop, Chaos Demons are generally very melee based. They run in, go really hard. You have lots of summoning and conjuring, tons of spells. Generally a little bit frail, but they have special saves to make them a little bit stronger. You've got giant demons and smaller demons. You got hordes of little boys and tons of big guys. Demons are as they seem. Demons. Nurgle is slow, Khorne is super scary in melee, you've got Tzeentch who are far more into psychers and spellcasting, and then Slaanesh who is all melee, really fast but squishy, but in lots of hordes of tons
Squishy.
of
They don't look squishy.
of course. So overall, the demons are
yeah, I
a
get it.
huge part of 40k and a massive threat to almost every single faction with the exception of a couple. However, the big part about demons is also transferred into the other 9 Primarchs we didn't talk about, which are the Chaos Space Marines.
That's so interesting.
So Horus and all of his boys, all of them in the Primarchs, they have all also become Chaos Boys, and they all have their own special Chaos Legions, specializing in so many different things, just like the Adeptus Astartes, the Angels of Death, the regular Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines aren't a whole lot different than the regular Space Marines. They have the same armor, generally the same training and toughness. They just specialize in different kinds of things. And also a lot of the Primarchs have ascended into greater demons?
Whoa.
They're demon Primarchs at this point. Gigantic, horrifying man-demon hybrids that are pretty awesome, if I'm going to be honest. They look really cool.
Yeah.
But them and their associated legions that they are a part of are all kind of going out there and causing a large ruckus for everyone else. Considering the raw strength and firepower of a legion of Space Marines, imagine that entire legion just converting to chaos and immediately fighting you. It's generally pretty horrifying. There's a lot of them, so I gotta write them down, but you've got the Emperor's Children with Primarch Fulgrim, loyal to Slaanesh. These people, they are some messed up people. They're just sensory overload, tons of drugs, tons of torture. And I think Fulgrim is a demon Primarch right now, and oh god, I am terrified to see what that man looks like, at least on the tabletop, because Emperor's Children are not good people. You've got the Iron Warriors, which are kind of like opposite of the Imperial Fists, with Primarch Perturabo, I believe is his name. They're Chaos Undivided. They just kind of serve chaos in a general aspect instead of choosing one of the 4. But the Iron Warriors are big on the siege and fortification, and they're basically entirely against the Imperial Fists and are a major rival. Perturabo, I believe, is also still alive.
What's his
very interested to see what he looks like, because Demon Primarchs are badass. You've got the Night Lords with Primarch Conrad Kurz. Conrad Kurz is dead, which is good because he's a sick fuck. But the Night Lords are generally about terror, terrorizing people, and terrorism. They're generally about fear, and probably so. You've got the World Eaters with Primarch Angron, still alive, also excited to see. Angron, if you think you've known an angry person, Angron is the angriest son of a bitch you will ever know. Angron removed parts of his brain that didn't make him angry, so he could be angrier. Angron, fucking mad. You've got the Death Guard with Primarch Mortarion. They actually have their own special codex and their own major army on the tabletop. Mortarion himself is actually one of the models, and look at him. Look at him.
Yeah.
It's so cool looking. Of course, Nurgle based, obviously. So very slow, but very tanky. You've got the Word Bearers with Primarch Lorgar. Lorgar is, I believe, still alive. I don't know what's up with him at the current moment. But the Word Bearers are generally the people who caused all the major problems in the beginning. At least I blame them for it. They're little assholes. You got the Black Legion with Primarch Horus. Get fucked, nerd. You've got the Alpha Legion with Primarch Alfarius Omegon. Chaos, I think. And then finally, you've got the Thousand Sons with Primarch Magnus the Nerd. Thousand Sons also have their own book just with the Death Guard. Magnus is also a tabletop model. He looks super cool, as you can tell. And they're all super heavily Psyker and kind of Egyptian themed. They look pretty neat. But
Very
overall,
cool.
with all of these Chaos Space Marine factions, you can play as a lot of different ones, but the main ones that you can really work at are standard Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, as well as the Death Guard and Thousand Sons, as they are the most fleshed out, especially on the tabletop at least. See this right here? This is a really good way to describe the Chaos Space Marines. What the thick-headed fools with their broken corpse of an emperor fail to understand is that not only can they never defeat us, but they cannot hide or flee or shield themselves from the triumph of chaos. They are finite and we are unbound, undivided. They must not err, or they shall fall to heresy. All who fall join our cause. Every imperial fool who dares to open his eyes is a willing recruit. They strive merely to hold back our fury and might, and it consumes them. Thus, you can see chaos is inevitable. We lurk not only beyond their grasp and at their gates, we lurk within the darkness of their souls, on the tip of their tongues, in their tortured dreams. We are them, but freed from the shackles of ignorance. We are them, grown strong, evolved. We are them, but so much more. As hardcore as that quote is, the saddest part is they're mostly right. Chaos is basically unkillable. You could probably get rid of Space Marines, a decent amount, the Chaos Space Marines that is, but every soul that dies goes to the warp. Every Chaos soul will end up back in the warp. And depending on how hard you killed them, they will come back at some point. Every demon you banish will return at some point. Chaos is unstoppable. The warp is unending. And while maybe there is at some point some way to stop them somehow, the resources to do so, the requirements to do so are so far beyond the reaches of man and the other races at the current moment that really it's just an unstoppable force that just keeps on coming and it's just barely being slowed. Chaos is by far the biggest threat. They are without number, their legions are everywhere, and yeah, they're pretty scary. So, I promise, we're done with humans now. Let's talk about some Xenos.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be very interesting. I just wanted to add that because the story is still being written, if there's ever like continuation to see what's gonna happen with the Emperor, to see if there's gonna be a new power emerging, or maybe, you know, the old ones, some of them are gonna reappear from somewhere, or we are going to actually understand about the Emperor's origins. Is he a very you know, I mean, the only one that survived from the old ones? I mean, what is the light at the end of the tunnel, or even if there is, because he cannot be on that throne forever. Something has to happen. So I'm very curious about that, you know, about the continuation of the story and how chaos could be defeated. So something must happen, but who knows when that's gonna be written, you know? So far we are at this point. And now let's continue. The Eldar. That's so interesting. So, yeah.
So let's talk about the Eldar, or also known as the Eldari, which are a super hyper-specialized and very technologically advanced race of, well, elf people. They were, as well, responsible for the creation of Slaanesh, the newest demon god. How'd they do that? Debauchery on a world-ending scale. Back in the day, it was just Khorne, Tzeentch, and Nurgle. And the Eldar are very, very ancient, millions of years. These Eldar, however, have a bit of a sensory problem. You know, every kind of pain or feeling that you have is a little bit amplified compared to the normal. However, with Eldar, as their race advanced so excessively, They became so self-reliant, and everything became so easy. There was no requirement for food production anymore. There was no shortages. Everything was basically done. Everyone was so comfortable, and that comfort breeded this weird sedation, and that sedation breeded the requirement for more and more debauchery.
Debauchery!
Debauchery!
When everything you have can be so
Jesus.
easily acquired, you will end up down this road of pure debauchery. All of the senses the Eldar had that were so powerful, things like feeling, happiness, sadness, and just evil and good, all needed to be satisfied and satiated. And the desire to satiate these senses grew more and more with worse and worse debauchery. It started off with things like sex and drugs becoming so much more rampant because these are the first things you generally turn to when requirements for living are so easily accessible. It would get to the point that made Sander Cohen in BioShock look sane. All right, this is the kind of debauchery it led to.
Jesus.
It was constantly satisfying and satiating these sexual and sadistic or masochistic fantasies that only elevated and elevated. And this was species-wide. People started going down darker.
Wow,
more
is this the
depraved
elf?
And more violent.
Is this the
paths as
Joker
time went
to
on.
the elves?
However, some people didn't entirely take to that. Some of the Eldar were looking at this depraved species that they had become and said, no thanks for me, dog, I'm good. And they bailed. These are the Craftworld Eldar. They left on these giant continent-sized starships called Craftworlds. They believed in learning the old ways of the Eldar and pushing away from this depravity and debauchery and going back to their main roots. And so they would segment themselves on these giant craft worlds far in the outer reaches of space. They even had this thing called the Webway. Remember what we mentioned about warp travel with the Imperium? Well, the Eldar had something way safer called a Webway. And the Eldar Webway is actually like a pocket dimension kind of thing. And in that pocket dimension, there were also more horrible, depraved groups and clans that would spend their time in there. And if you imagine the debauchery was bad already, these were debauchery X10. So all of this continued, and it bloated until Slaanesh just burst forth. All that emotion, all that mental, thought processes, I suppose, all of this in such a condensed space. Don't forget, this is all being shot, all their souls as well, into the warp. All this depravity right into the warp. So what happened? Boom, Slaanesh was birthed and killed off 90% of the entire Eldar population. Untold trillions had their souls ripped from their bodies and their actual fleshy bodies devoured by Slaanesh demons. The entirety of the Eldar race was eaten alive and their souls consumed to the Prince of Pleasure. All of them got fucked up. It was so bad that it literally ripped a warp hole into the fabric of the materium called the Eye of Terror. That's literally this like quasi horrifying gateway portal from the materium and the immaterium right next to Cadia. And it is horrifying. So this Slaanesh, also known as She Who Thirsts by the Eldar, slaughtered the entire population except for a couple. Those in the craft worlds were actually not affected by this as they were so far in the reaches of the galaxy. That crazy crack, that birth of Slaanesh only affected the ones in the center. So these craft world Eldar were able to escape, but Slaanesh got their sights on them. Every time an Eldar will die, their soul doesn't just pass into the warp naturally. It goes straight to Slaanesh, craft world or not. What about those people in the Webway? Well, imagine that giant birth happening, but they were only able to just barely get a grasp onto you. Slaanesh was just barely able to hold on. These people are the Dark Eldar, or also known as the Drukhari. The Eldar population right now is so massively small. It is minuscule compared to any of the other
Yeah, I just want to say one thing here before I forget about it. That basically her birth was a result of what the Eldar created with their very low level of everything. And that is what caused the birth itself. But then to be able for her or him or both to be fed and just gain strength as a god, I'm just gonna call her she because just how I perceive her at the moment. She decided to kill everything. I mean, not decided, but that was kind of like automatic response. Because she is already sentient by the moment of the birth anyway. So, yeah. Now the only way to be stronger is to consume all the souls that you possibly can, and that is what makes you a god basically in this way. But those gods, all of them, are based just on that, or our weaknesses, not only our but in general of all the species. And I do think that logically the way to defeat them eventually, I mean the whole chaos altogether, is to work on ourselves. I mean every race that possibly can do that, and consciously nurture the good qualities and thoughts in us, and that's gonna weaken them a lot. I mean, based on the logic and their nature and how they're strong in general, I mean, what makes them strong, this should help a lot. I mean, they're all, I mean, humans and yeah, the other races, they're giving them power when they're doing the bad things, when they're doing the bad, well, everything, when they have the bad emotions and the bad feelings. Because as far as I understand from everything that I watched so far, the prayer on itself is not something that fuels them, but it is the intent and the thoughts and the feelings, because that's what is genuine, truly genuine, and what is actually makes the person take some kind of action because of those feelings and processes. So if people just change that and they realize that when they behave and think bad thoughts, that's gonna feed the evil gods, and they're basically being themselves and being with all of their flaws and not working on themselves, and still fighting something with force when they should just work on themselves. That's going to actually fight the gods for real. Yeah, that's just a thought, but I think that it's direct hit to all the chaos gods. I mean, whatever you do, just nurture the good qualities in you, not the bad. If you're addicted to what Slaanesh has to offer, just try to not be addicted to that. Now, we're not talking about people that are mentally somehow broken or anything like this, although in this 41st millennia, it seems like a lot of the physical illnesses are solved, or at least the Marines, they don't have any, but maybe regular humans. But they all have these weaknesses, the Marines as well, of jealousy, all of those things that are really pitiful human negative qualities. So if they can work on that, like a monk or something, that could actually elevate their spirit, literally, their state of mind, their whole perception, and altering that will give no ammunition to the gods. Of course, that's not going to happen immediately, but one by one, if this is taught and if this is practiced, this surely has to take an effect with time. Of course, it's going to take a lot of time, but you have to start somewhere, and just shooting the demons in the face, just treating the the symptom, but does not treat the core of the problem. That's just what I wanted to say.
of the other populations in the
And once
universe.
again, I'm going to read what you're saying after the stream.
The Eldar are consistently having issues trying to get their population up because as their souls are constantly being hungered by from Slaanesh, they realize their entire species is doomed. And they understand it very well. Since the time of the fall, our race has been haunted by what we, in our reckless pursuit of hedonistic indulgence, gave birth to. Though our dreams once overturned worlds and quenched suns, we are now but fitful shadows clinging to the edge of existence. All the stars in the sky cannot blot out the hateful glare of the red moon's eye. The birthing place of the great enemy pulses with all the malice of a demon that is dreaming, casting its shadow over all we have ever done and all we ever shall. Every twisted strand of fate and casting of the runes leads me to this time, to this place, and it is clear that the final battle awaits me at the ancient Khorne worlds, a conflict the likes of which has not been seen since the Mon-Kai warred amongst themselves and their corpse of a seer fell to his traitorous son. Is coming, and all my steps lead towards it, no matter that I walk other paths. I see the stars stained red with the blood of the Mon-Kai, and though their wars do not concern me, I would gladly let them destroy one another. I know that to avoid this fight is to condemn my race to inevitable doom, and though all I see is darkness, I know that I will not flinch from my destiny. And now let's talk about cute plastic models.
Bro,
Yeah.
I'm straight up not having a good time.
The first playable race we have for the Eldar are the Craftworld Eldar and living in those Craftworld starships I mentioned earlier. And each of them have their own kind of craft world, almost like a Space Marine Legion. Each craft world is in itself its own special kind of group. And the Eldar themselves are very fast and rely a lot on trickery. They are squishy, a bit weak, but they're very in tune as psychers. Tons of psychers across the entire Eldar population, and their weaponry and
That's my
abilities
favorite.
are fast and extremely
so
hard
cool.
hitting, but of course rather fragile. Understanding an Eldar's brain is an exercise of futility. They are all over the place in confusion and trickery on a whole galactic scale. They fight weird, they think weirder, and Eldar in their own right really rely on this to keep their species alive. They need to think about deception and the strangeness of what they do if they truly want to not be immediately murdered and slaughtered wholesale, thanks to their entirely small population. However, I must say that it seems like their population is getting slightly better. These craft worlds hold millions upon millions of people. And as they continually, reproduce and have their craft worlds expand, losing a few people in battle, while hurts a lot, they aren't really losing what's extremely precious to them. It's not like every single death means the death of their species. It seems like they're kind of on the upturn a little bit. They're still a doomed race being sucked into Slaanesh every time someone dies, but they are definitely doing a little bit better than they were before. Eldar are fast, cunning, and what they don't make...
Well, as far as I understand from Luton's videos, they have these red stones that are supposed to keep their soul intact. And that can, when they die, just the soul goes to the red stone, and then they use this to power something. I forgot what it was, but the point is that it does go as a resource for the betterment of their race. That is the gist of it. And that is how the soul of each Eldar does not go to Slaanesh at all. They're basically like in prison, I think, in this way, but at least they're not sacrificed to Slaanesh when they die, and that's a lot more horrifying than to be in a stone, so to speak, and be actually used for good. So there's that.
Up for in tankiness, they make up for in extremely advanced weaponry. They also call humans Mon-Kai, which is something I mentioned earlier. That is a derogatory slur for humans in the Warhammer world. Why is it called Mon-Kai? Well, it's because you can't, in your game, call people monkeys. On the tabletop,
Yeah.
exactly what I said. Not very...
Yeah, of course, that if the red stone is destroyed, they will still go to Slaanesh. That's logical. You don't need to explain that. Of course. This only works if the stone is intact and it's placed where it's supposed to be placed, and it starts to be used there. But if someone takes all the stones somehow and destroys them, of course they're all going to Slaanesh. That's the bummer.
Generally pretty squishy. hit like
Squishy!
trucks
I just love
and
this
move at
word.
Mach 5. Fast,
Squishy.
hit hard, die fast. Exactly how it sounds. They've been good for a very long time, too. We bring only death and leave only carry on. It is a message even a human can understand.
Oh, come on.
Eldar. So, Drukhari. Let's talk about the Dark Eldar.
On today's episode,
Oh,
how
no.
fucked up is fucked up. That's fucked up.
So those people I mentioned in the webway, in the super deranged cults and the depraved people of the Eldar, in the webway they didn't quite get a hold onto them. Slaanesh like has them, but it has them on like by the pinky finger. And they're slowly being consumed by Slaanesh, but they found out they can stave her off by doing Slaanesh things.
Oh,
the Dark
no.
Eldar are by far the worst, most horrifying, disgusting, depraved, and brutal race in all of Warhammer 40k. These are entirely a group of people whose full purpose to save their species from extinction, to go into planets, raid them, and take as many slaves as they possibly can to torture them for 1, 5, 10, 20, a million years, because that torture will keep them from dying. They look very BDSM style too. They definitely have a lot more spiky bits and they have a lot more of that kind of leathery black look to them.
Okay, I just have one question because this is still something that I have not stumbled upon, and that is for how many years people live? I mean, how many years, does human live? How many years does elf live? That's very interesting to me. Yeah, I mean, I doubt that everybody can live million years. They should have some kind of a lifespan. I mean, humans, I mean, space marines, for instance, they can live longer. Custodies, they can live even longer. But still, what is the the lifespan? Now the other kind. How was their name? The perpetuals, I think. Yeah, they are mortal. But what about everybody else? Yeah, that's my question. I'm sure that you guys know. You mean it's not literal? Yeah, still, yeah, of course that you can extend your life, but how much? How much is how much? How much is too much? Their civilization, yeah, but they should have some kind of a lifespan. I mean, the whole civilization doesn't mean that. I mean, our civilization is like thousands. Let's just say that. I mean, I'm just giving very loose example. Don't take it seriously. The point is that people live and die. Civilization lives on. Civilization lifespan is not individual human or individual Eldar lifespan. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Today I recorded two or three videos, made another stream, and it's very late. So you have to excuse me. Yeah, my cognitive abilities are kind of declining now because it's getting late. But yeah, you know what I mean. That's what I mean. About 80? 80? You mean 80 years? 80 years? That is today's. That is today. No, that should not be the case. Okay, Eldar's more than millennia, more than 1,000 years, if that's the case. 1,000 years, human lives less than 100. No, that's very low. That's so low. Thunder warriors at over 10,000 years, and let's not talk about the freaking emperor who's been around for thousands as well. 200 years. Interesting. Okay. Getting. I mean, the lifespan just gets more and more for humans. 300, 400. Okay. Hey, Beta, hi too. Malkador live 500. Yeah, well, I kind of did mean, when I said human, I kind of did mean the The Imperial Guard. But yeah, regular humans as well, not the ones that have to work very hard jobs, but just the regular normal humans, if there's such a thing. If there is even such a thing like the normal everyday person on the street. Let's say if there is a street there. Oh, wow, that's a lot. Okay, well, let's continue, and yeah, we have more to go. We have more to go, so let's continue.
But
A lot
let's,
more.
example, let's say you are an upstanding Imperial citizen, living life on a regular planet. You get invaded by the Necrons. The Necrons will shoot you with a deatomizer, and you will be destroyed in a millisecond, and that's it. Not the worst way to go. You are invaded by Chaos Marines or something. You take a bolter shot to the head or a chain sword across your stomach, and you get cut in half. Painful, but not the worst. The Orcs
Not the worst,
thrive.
yeah.
They beat you to death. Hurts, but you know, whatever. Tyranids, they eat you alive. Pretty rough.
Well,
The
actually, a lot of
Dark
other
Eldar.
stuff that they do as
The
well.
Dark
yeah.
Eldar. This is going to get a little graphic. I apologize. You pray you die. You don't. You are instead taken as a human slave. Your life will be endless work and agony, 24/7. They will make sure you can't not die, as your pain satisfies them. They will hook you up to all manner of torture devices. They will inject pain-based, like stimuli drugs directly into your nervous system. They will slowly run razor blades across your skin.
Oh,
they will
Jesus.
fillet you. and just
50,000
pull out your teeth
years.
and your fingernails.
I haven't
one
read that
by
yet,
one.
but-
They will remove your appendages and your skin
Wow.
and wait for it to grow back so they can do it again. They will murder and torture and use the R word. It rhymes with grape. Your
Oh,
entire
Jesus.
family in front of you and do the exact same thing to them. You yourself will also be rhymes with grape anywhere and everywhere possible. And this will occur for 20 years until you are no longer satisfying to them. And then you will be contorted, crushed, and twisted into some form of trophy, a fleshy trophy, or a ring, or a couch, or a TV stand, or perhaps a wonderful hat.
Oh,
while
come
you are,
on.
of course, still alive and breathing. And you will become a moaning, fleshy trophy for eternity.
If you're
That
alive,
is what happens when
at
you
that
are taken
point-
by the Dark Eldar. They are the most depraved, most horrifying race in all of 40k. They look the part, and they do it so they all don't die. They are literally forced to do this, because if they don't, Slaanesh's grip will get harder, and they will have their souls pulled away. So long as they keep doing this, Slaanesh is like, "You're doing good, man. You're doing solid. You keep that shit up, you elf bastards." That's the Dark Eldar. That's the Drukhari. They are horrible. On the tabletop, they're actually kind of like Eldar, but more extreme. They are even squishier than the Eldar, but they hit generally even harder. Fast attacks,
Squishier.
skirmishers, really quick
But they're
speed, like, get around
pointier.
and do a lot of damage, get away kind of stuff. That's most of the Dark Eldar. Look up the definition of grim dark in a dictionary. You'll find a picture of the Dark Eldar and Sev from Public Commando. A
Why?
quote from Mr. Vecht. "We are the lords of despair, masters of terror. Dread and agony are our meat and wine, and they are plentiful indeed." Dark Eldar. Let's talk about the Harlequins. Clowns.
What's the matter?
Harlequins.
Don't you
They're
wanna
literally
have some
named
The Harlequins
like
are a
Harley
bizarre
Quinn
race.
from DC.
They're demonic clown performers. They're like a weird mix of Sander Cohen from BioShock and Jin from League of Legends. but
I
in a
don't
more
even remember
clown theme.
much
They're
about this guy
artists
from
of
BioShock
death
now.
and perfecters of their craft.
But
They do
I
not
guess
belong
he's
to
very bad.
craftworlds or any of the weird Drukhari people. They guard something called the Black Library, which is this giant tome of never-ending knowledge deep in the heart of the Eldar Webway, and also guarded by their god named Kegorok, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
Well,
He is
another
the
one.
laughing god. But it's the Eldar's laughing god? And these are the Harlequins, the Harlequin clowns. These are Eldar clowns, okay? So imagine the things that an Eldar, these depraved individuals, would find funny. And this is the god of that.
Oh no.
It's a horror clown. These are gods of horror.
I
For
can't
us
even look
normal
at that.
people.
So
For them, they're like,
unsettling.
oh, it's so funny. They're
Disturbing.
all dying horribly. Honk, honk. They're very bizarre and difficult to describe. They've escaped the ruinous powers of Slaanesh somehow, but their main thing is guarding that black library, and the Harlequins just... They're demon clown performers. They're barely any models on the tabletop. They're
Interesting how
good
they
melee.
escaped her pool.
They're demon clowns. I'm not sure. I got a quote. It is too easy for an Eldar to embrace the obscene virtues of chaos, for Slaanesh is nothing more than a manifestation of the Eldar mind in its most wild and unconstrained form. Human morality is meaningless to the Eldar, and to the dark side of the Eldar mind, all life is to be expended at a whim. Cruelty and generosity are but the impulse of a moment. Beauty and sensuality are virtues that can be expressed in bloodshed just as easily as in song.
Jesus.
To an unfettered Eldar mind, there is neither sanity nor madness, but merely a wave of perfect existence fulfilled by its own savage momentum. They're very strange. Harlequins, Drukhari, Eldar, they are an anomaly that make humans seem completely easy to understand in comparison. They range from rekindling their civilization to horrifying murder and also clowns. They're all over the place, but honestly, they represent quite well and are rather interesting, especially with the whole Slaanesh murdering everyone bit. So, yeah, Eldar. Now, bugs.
Oh boy.
They follow him.
And that is, I mean, they're very actually interesting. There are some aspects to them and their connection or rather lack thereof from chaos that I'm personally fascinated by. But I'm going to explore this more because I just want to understand it better, so to speak. Interesting theories about that. So yeah, let's dive in. And by the way, there's like a huge storm behind me, so I hope that nothing's gonna happen. But yeah, there's a flood next to my this side.
The bugs.
The Tyranids. Now, you want to talk something a little more fun, a little more simple than all this crazy Eldar shenanigans? Let's talk the Tyranids. They're bugs. Do they look like Zerg? Hell yeah, they look like Zerg. You want to know why they look like Zerg? Because they were
Jesus.
actually supposed to be what Zerg were. Apparently StarCraft was supposed to be a 40k game in the beginning, hence why they look so much like Eldar, Zerg, and the Imperium of Man. Like, kind of Space Marine-y, those Marines, huh?
Yeah.
They look a little bit Space Marine-y to me. Maybe. I don't know. You really fucked up on that one, Games Workshop, didn't ya? Tyranids are a giant infestation of unfathomable proportions. These are
Indeed.
giant, extremely bio-advanced hive mind organisms that are basically all about absorbing as much biomass as they possibly can to evolve and mutate to be extremely potent and powerful and kill and eat anything in their path. They are probably the least evil faction in all of 40k because all they want to do is eat shit. They want to nom nom the entire galaxy. Stay
nom nom.
angry and we food. Also, this
Yeah.
Tyranid hive mind has a presence in the warp. In fact, Tyranids in their own right have a massive presence in the warp. They have a thing called the shadow in the warp specifically, where when they are coming in to invade a planet, they have this weird ability to kind of cut off the warp on all the psychers on that planet. And how do you get help across the stars? Well, you need the warp because you need that for interstellar travel. So with people unable to call for help from the Tyranids, these are just easy pickings. And an entire giant Tyranid hive fleet comes out of orbit and just will massacre, absorbing all of that biomass.
You see, that's what I meant, that they have some kind of a way to to give like an opposite pour, or I'm just trying to find the right expression, but it's like the hive mind can literally, block the the warp, and that kind of means that they can negatively, just stand alone without being bothered by chaos or something like that. It's very interesting. They're the opposite of that in some kind of a way. So the hive mind is very, very deep thing that hides a lot of mysteries. It's like a god entity on its own, which I also came across as a theory when I did my research. It was kind of called like a different god, but it's so behind the scenes that you can't see it or you cannot really understand anything. It's just so behind the scenes. You see the effect, but you don't see who does the effect, if that makes any sense. I mean, you see how they act as a group, but you don't see who commands them. The source, yeah, you don't see the source. It's very, very interesting. Very.
And turning them and all of their other Tyranids into even more advanced monsters. They come in so many varieties too, all based on what is important. Tiny little ripper swarms for scouting and having little dudes eat people up, to the Hormagons, Termagants, and Gene Stealers, all the way to the Hive Guard and the Exocrines and the Swarm Lord, to Hive Tyrants and their giant battle fleets, and even something as crazy as the Hierophant Bio-Titan. The Tyranids come in all forms and sizes depending on what they require. They are extremely good at anti-biological weaponry. There is no way you could plague them or blight them. They have extremely strong armor, carapaces and such. Tyranids are nigh perfect organisms and are pretty spooky when it comes down to how they handle all of their genetic material. Keep feeding them, they'll keep evolving. They keep on creating new horrifying organisms.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I didn't mean cancel. I just mean that they're the opposite force of it, you know? That's what I mean. It's like the opposite, which means that they can just keep it away in some kind of a distance, let's say. That's what I meant. But as I said, I'm going to further explore this because it's just very interesting and it's kind of left to interpretation, I think. It's not one of the most well explained things, like you also said. Um, well, that's interesting point that the Tyranids, if they die, they're also going to go to the warp. Is that so? That's really so, because they have a hive mind. It's not one individual soul per se. It's like they are all one soul that can manifest itself in different organisms, and the organisms are more advanced, like this kind compared to other kinds, just because they have to serve a particular purpose, but that doesn't mean that they are all individually completely sentient by themselves. Although I did I did saw from what I checked so far that some of them kind of display that they have their own decisions, but it's mostly not. So I don't know how that is true or not true. I'm going to dedicate a few hours only to them these days so I can learn more how the hive mind actually works. But so far it seems that it's just very, it's a hive mind. It's something that they're just like the executors of the will of one being and one being only, and anything that resembles a higher level, like some of their yuckier and bigger representatives, that doesn't mean that they individually have some kind of a personality to them or their own thinking. That's what I mean. But so that's why if they die, do they actually go to the warp or anywhere if they don't have individual souls? That's my question that just was born of all of this. So orcs also have massive soul? I mean, I know that they're kind of dumb and they only want to fight, and the strongest orc is the most respected orc. Whoever can beat the most orcs, and I mean, the biggest, the baddest are the ones that are actually respected, but they do not seem like they have one mind. You can still be right though. I just have to check. I'm still into the orcs like halfway, so I can't say that I explore them. I just explore their how they function, how they're made, but not much about their soul. So yeah, I cannot speak on that. I'm not yet informed. Oh Jesus, you wrote so many things. Well, yeah. Okay, so JK in Slayer says that yeah, they don't have souls, which is interesting because that's gonna contradict their influence on the warp. That's what I mean, you know, if they go to the warp but then they have the ability collectively to somehow block it, where's the compatibility? They don't seem compatible with the warp like at all. That's what I mean. Yeah, you need to have a soul to go to the warp. Exactly. Yeah, man. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah, Stanislav, hello to you. I don't know if you're a fan of Warhammer. You never said, I don't think. Well, hi Orda. Hi Sid as well. Hey Beta. They have mind. Yeah, they have mind, but they don't have individual mind. They have a hive mind, like literally. So that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. But synaptic link. Yeah, so maybe if one dies, it just goes to the link. How about that? How about that? Is that not a very good theory? I mean, I have to find if it's supported, of course. I don't want to talk without knowing. The point is that not logical at least? I mean, if you just look how they are structured, their nature, if they're all connected with this synaptic link, that would mean that maybe if they die, they're just gonna go back to that, and then when the next, when the next Tyranid, sorry if I butchered that, is produced, it's just gonna be born from the same freaking link, you know? So interesting. Yeah, it does controls the untold trillions of Tyranids. Well, I never heard the link to be destroyed. Isn't it like kinda integrated in them? Can they even function without it? Can they even be alive without it? If they're only simple animals, well, if they're still alive and they're animals, that means that they don't have the personality factor. They're only the desired instinct base, which is animals. Okay, guys, let's continue because we have a lot more to go, and we can be here all night just dissecting something. Even one of the factions is worth talking hours upon hours, and you know that. So let's continue, and we are going to pick our brains about these things for sure. So yeah.
Organisms to spread across the galaxy. And you know what the most terrifying part of the Tyranids is?
Yeah.
We might be surrounded. There have been like around 6 or 7 Tyranid hive fleets. Behemoth, Kronos, all these different kinds of hive
marching
fleets.
on.
And they've all arrived in the galaxy from different points. Different sections of the Milky Way galaxy have had different Tyranids come through.
Why?
And
Where did they come from?
That is horrifying. Because as far as we know, we could just be surrounded on all sides by Tyranids. The only reason you may not hear a whole lot about Tyranids is because it's a little bit hard to have a bunch of story off of one hive mind genocidal monsters. All these giant bugs swarming in, killing and eating everybody and evolving. Well, I mean, as cool as there are, there's some cool characters.
I think the mystery is what
it
makes it interesting about them.
Stories around them. As awesome
the
as
story
they
is
are,
hidden.
they're simple. They
That's
want
the
to
thing.
eat you. They want to eat you and absorb your biomass. They are simple bugs. If you want something a little more complex, talk gene stealer cults.
Yeah, I just want to add lastly that this is the point, I think, that they're only simple on the surface because you see the effect of them, but you don't see what's behind them. And behind them is the real story. The real deal is there. It's behind. That's just what I
Have
want
all the
to
pot
say.
I want, I get around faster than walking, and wherever I need a seat, I can just sit on my balls.
Gene stealer cults
What?
are a special brand of Tyranid that can slowly infect themselves into different kinds of society. And by infecting them, they can rise up to where they all pray and believe in these regular humans, pray and believe into their Tyranid hive mind gods. And these brood lords, and I think they're called patriarchs, all can turn an entire world all based into gene stealers. And these are called gene stealer cults. An entire hive world of the Imperium can be turned into nothing but servants of the Tyranid masters just by infecting them and screwing with their genetic code a little bit. They also have this cool like Mad Max look, which is really neat. They are definitely one of the bigger threats to the Imperium besides Chaos. I keep saying biggest threat to the Imperium. They're up there though, because you,
Yeah.
dingus, stepped on a bug in middle school. Asshole. There is a cancer eating at the Imperium. With each
Horrible.
decade, it advances deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought and purpose that functions on an unimaginable galactic scale. And all we can do is to try to stop the swarms of bioengineered monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salvage our fears. We call it the Tyranid race. But if it is aware of us, it must know us as nothing but prey. Tyranids, they're cool. But are they as cool as the orcs?
Okay, we're getting to the hilarious stuff now, so
Orcs,
to
orcs,
speak.
orcs, 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 orcs,
Orcs,
orcs,
orcs,
orcs, orcs, orcs. I fucking love orcs. So, yes, the green monsters, the green tide, the green skins. These orcs, they are in fact a race in 40k. The orcs are as exactly what you expect them. They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old teeth, and they want to kill
Yeah.
everything, and there are so many of them.
They're like,
The
"Roar."
only they're taking over the entire galaxies that can't stop murdering each other. Orcs are so cool. Orcs don't have philosophy. Orcs don't have existential crisis. What matters is who's the biggest orc. You listen to that guy, because he the biggest orc. He's big orc knows best. You win through the power of imagination. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care
Yeah.
little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic?
Oh, that's
As
so
an orc,
funny.
You're enjoying life. You're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is the man who understands everything. He is
He's
the
the
boss.
man.
And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent, which is just hilarious to me. Those are orcs. You fight. You like to fight. Your whole purpose is to fight. You wage war because you want to wage war. You got your boss over there, and you better listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss will squish you and make an example for the other orcs. And then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight because orc dead.
Yeah.
They scrap together machines out of parts that don't make any sense, and because they believe, they have the mental imagination that that machine will run, it'll run. If that machine's out of gas, you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you is like,
No
oh,
gas.
Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not. I filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the fucking mech back on, and it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not, but it works. The power of imagination. They paint things red because it makes them think they goes faster. They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You want to know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are also like ancient as hell. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Orcs, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're
Orc
pretty
smash.
spooky. They're not very well armored, but they hit really hard, and it's called the Green Tide because there are so many orcs. There are about as many orcs as there are Tyranids. Maybe more, who knows? But they keep on, murdering each other, so it's not too bad of an issue. Orcs are entirely comic relief. Their stuff is slapped together. That makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works, because they imagine that it works. Orcs care only about who is the biggest orc, and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc. And then when they go and they issue a wa is just war in orc, they murder everybody. And
Oh no, their language must be so funny. And just imagine a bunch of orcs running towards the enemy like the Green Tide, and they're hitting each other because they're just, doing this with their arms and they're waving their axes, and one orc hits another orc and just gets the axe into his stomach, and he's like, ugh! And that orc is like, ugh! Orc hit orc! And the other orc is like, yeah, you hit me! I hit you! And then... Oh my gosh, and as far as I understand, their physiology is made in such a way that they don't have so many important organs. They're kind of hollow, well, not hollow, but they're made in such a way that even if if you hit them in the body in a particular way, maybe that's not gonna hit something very important, not even a little bit, so they can continue fighting even if they look like they're really, really hurt. But in reality, you just didn't hit anything special, so yeah, they can just continue fighting and maybe eat your head while they're fight you. Like, who knows? It's so fun.
Everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they get to beat shit up. That's orcs. And on the tabletop, they are a total coin flip, and they're really fun. I have never met a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing. Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained. Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're super well trained. Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot with anything, from the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whip. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're so wacky and silly. But the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people. And if you don't, you lose. I mean, that's what you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play orc. It's a coin flip. Which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs, because things won't go your way. It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're going to have fun, and you want to be stupid, and you want to be silly, you're going to play some damn orcs. But on the opposite side of the fun part of this, let's talk about the Necrons.
Oh, that's so sad. Okay, let's get to the Necrons.
The Necrons are spooky, scary skeletons and very grimdark again. They have a much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just undead Egyptian space terminators, and they still look that way, but now they actually have a story. So way back in the day, you had the Necron tier. Kind of see a theme here: Eldari, Eldar, Krork, Orc, Necron, Necron tier. So the Necron tier were this race of generally kind of shitty people. Not because they were personally shitty, because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a horrible existence of like radiation and a terrible planet they lived on, and everything just really sucked. Being a Necron tier was just really depressing. They really were looking for immortality. They were extremely reliant on the hope that they would eventually find the key to living forever and to stave off this horrible nature that they were thrust upon them, and therefore they could become the most dominant race in the galaxy. And they found this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like the Forerunners in Halo or the Xel'Naga in StarCraft, right? These old ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite stories that I find most fascinating in the whole Warhammer universe. I mean, I find everything fascinating and extremely interesting, but this is just one of the things that I was like, oh, this is so tragic, but so interesting. So, yeah, the old ones are like the ancient gods of the universe, or at least I don't know anyone that is more ancient than they are. So, they're like the initial gods, so to speak.
And they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said, please, show us your ways. And the old ones said, piss off. Not really, they were a lot more humble about it, but they did not want to share their secret of immortality with the Necrons.
And maybe
The
they had
Necrons,
a
of
reason,
course,
but
took
who
this
knows?
very well and waged war with them, kind of under this united banner. The Necron different dynasties didn't really like each other, but under this one man, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite his race was to do this giant war with the Old Ones out of spite for them keeping the secret of immortality to them. This was known as the War in Heaven, and this is actually like a multi-stage war. Because during this war in heaven, they discovered the star gods, a whole new race of people known as the Catan.
Yep.
Catan. These star gods were also very much like old ones, almost omnipotent beings, and they too had the key to immortality. And so the Necrons went to them and said, hey, can you help us fight off the old ones? Can you help us kill these old ones, you, the Catan? And the Catan said yes. And in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek. So the Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact with the Catan to allow them to accept this generous gift of immortality upon them.
Sure,
But
no
this, of
agenda at
course,
all.
had been a horrendous trap, and the Necrons were dragged in chains to this biotransference where their flesh was stripped from them, replaced with nothing but a metal hollow shell, as their souls were ripped from their body and fed to the Catan. And the Catan fattened up. They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons. As this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic slaves just to serve their will. And then, with their new-founded Necron army, they pointed their guns at the old ones, and the Catan continued their domination of the stars and their genocide, complete and full genocide of these old ones. The old ones did their best to stave it off. They even created other races, the Eldari and the Orcs, to try to fight off the horrifying Necron army and the Catan above them. But there was absolutely no possible chance for them. And the old ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy. Their entire race completely removed. Full-on 100% genocide. However, during all this, the Catan, so just infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences, doesn't matter. The Catan, with these overpowered people, they're going to eventually hit each other at some point. And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldari and the Orcs actually started pushing on the Catan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided to leap into action and start a full-scale revolt against their Catan masters. And this revolt was bloody, as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were able to, just after suffering horrendous losses, were able to turn the tide of the war. And they took these Catan and they blasted them. Because as these star gods are unkillable, they were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of their old god...
I just want to say, it's kind of hard for me to grasp how something that's not actually material, or at least is it explained if all of those gods, the old ones, the Catan, how are they even material, to what point they are? Because, you know, the Necrons are using material weapons to fight them, and they are actually able to hurt them and even close upon them and, you know, capture them, I mean, in those vaults, all of those things, how they are able to hurt something that's supposed to be a godlike being that is not, well, material. Yeah. Well, that means that they should be material to a big extent, which is going to be their downfall and their weakness. Otherwise, how they can even hurt them? You know, I just that thing, it just lost on me. I just want somebody to explain how is that war even possible? It's like shooting what to the air? Yeah, I mean something that is connected to the weapons, the nature of the weapons, that should be able to hurt them, or if the weapons have some kind of a magic to them, something like that. Otherwise, how oh Jesus, how can they fight them? That's my point. Does somebody know that? Uh, well, yeah, I know that the Necrons created these bodies from alive metal, which enabled the Catan to inhabit the you know, those bodies, but still they can only you know, destroy the material body, the metal body. But how about the inner nature of the Catan? I mean, their true selves that were already very strong and didn't need the bodies, but through the bodies that they were able to function in our world. You know what I mean? So even if they destroy the bodies, what is destroying the Catan inside the bodies? You know? Hmm. Hmm. The Necrons create a material called black stone, suppresses the warp. Yeah, he did say that they were blasted into shards. That's why I'm saying, like, how they are able to do this, you know? How they are able to blast them into shards. They're not, in their nature, they're not material. Hmm. Oh yeah, Judas, I am. I just want to, you know, dissect it, understand it. I really, really want to do that because it's very interesting, and we have to look at this from kind of a logical perspective. Whenever that is hard, or even if I hit a stone, there may be some kind of information that's gonna help me understand this if it's explained in the lore. I mean, not everything is explained in the lore in the same way how, you know, the previous insect race was a bit of a mystery. What is behind the curtain? It's book magic. Yeah, I understand that they become material, but they still enter those bodies and function in the material world through the bodies. But before they do that, they're still the Catan with their immaterial nature. That's what I mean. So the fact that they are entering the bodies, that doesn't mean that the bodies destroy their initial nature. You know what I mean? I mean, they will be vulnerable when they're in those bodies, because, you know, when you destroy the body, you take that power, that influence on the material world, that possibility for the Catan to act directly into the material world. But do you take the Catan's existence by doing this? Because he or they, let's say they, existed before they entered the bodies all by themselves through who knows how many thousands of years, you know? They are already powerful beings. That is how they are able to survive for this long, to say the least, and even fight the old ones. Mars, he's the Messiah. That's another topic about the Emperor. The dragon is the Catan. And took him to the Mars. Well, he took him to Mars, and then what happened? Well, when you blast them to million pieces, they're still not dead because he did say they're unkillable because they're gods. So if they're into pieces, they're still sentient in some kind of a way, and if they have the power, they maybe can put themselves together. That's why they had to put them into those vaults, maybe take energy of them through the vaults.
Enslaved to them, they realized that soon their race was about to be attacked by the overcoming.
But still, lastly, but still, when you blast a Catan out of his live metal body, and the metal body is into pieces, and then you have the Catan, and he is, or they are into pieces. Spiritual pieces? You know what I mean?
New races, the Eldari and the Orcs. And so what they did is they retreated into giant stasis tombs in order to preserve their energy and their strength for when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy.
Yeah, you mean that when they're in so many pieces, they're not able to be one, which is by definition correct. But it still doesn't make any sense from a spiritual perspective to me. That's the thing. Yeah, well, okay. So maybe if they are bound to the metal bodies, and if you break the metal body, because the metal bodies are alive, but if they connected their essence with the live metal, in that kind of a way, the live metal became a part of their essence, and therefore of their initial self. When you break that apart, their spiritual self is going to be tied to that metal piece. So that's gonna prohibit them to bring them together. I mean, to like the Terminator, like the liquid Terminator. Well, basically, yeah. I mean, that kind of makes sense. It's a fantasy setting as well, and if we have the established rules of how spirituality works, or what are the gods in terms of their level of existence, because you have a human spirit and then you have a god, which means that God, when it's not material, he's gonna be this super powerful spirit, which is going to allow him to do a lot more things in spirit, where a mere human will not be able to have this kind of an influence on anything, because he just is not on that same level. But like you say, if the metal is alive, which it is, and it's connected to the spiritual matter, and the Catan did that because they thought that they're gonna have these bodies forever, they basically closed themselves. They created this weakness, which they thought that it's strength, but they didn't think that if that body is broken, they're also going to be tied to the body. So basically, they're not technically dead, but they're into pieces, and they cannot function if somebody does not have the the creative power to bring them together. You can say that that is some kind of explanation if in the world of Warhammer, if that works within the established rules of how in Materium and Materium works and how it works together. Maybe this is the only unique occurrence of this sort, so we don't have any other thing to compare it to and be like, yeah, but if this happens, then this happens. This is just a unique occurrence of the history. Yeah, it's all interesting. Okay, let's see what you're saying. Yeah, T1000. T1000, but we gotta get through this. We just have a few more minutes, so we're gonna discuss a bit after the stream. And I'm gonna check. So let us finish this, guys. Let's finish this. We just have a few more minutes, really.
That was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and now the Necrons are back, and they see all these primitive races on their lawns, and they think, get the fuck off of it. The Necrons are back, super advanced, and they are here to reclaim the galaxy.
What the
they
Adeptus
so
Mechanicus
rightfully
doing
believe is
there?
theirs.
What were they
On
doing there?
tabletop, they're a lot like that. Tons of undead Egyptian skeleton robots that when they die, they just get right back up because they keep on reanimating. Hard to kill, tons of crazy stuff. You can use the Catan themselves as units to fight with. It's pretty cool. The Necrons are one of the three major events in 40k. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events. And the Necrons themselves are pretty dang cool as well. Here's a good quote from a wonderful Dawn of War game. Lucky creatures, as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs, I was remade. Here, my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more.
And he's still alive,
Poor
technically.
victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts.
He's not in the
Kronos
warp,
will
so.
lead the true world once more. Necrons are also pretty smug. Trazen the Infinite especially, a little dickhead. But speaking of dickheads, last race. Let's talk
the Tau. Okay.
The
Last
exact
one.
formation of the Tau Empire is not entirely understood. However, a long time ago, many thousands of years ago, in the 40k world that is, some Imperial navigation vessels were going around through different areas, and they saw a primitive race, blue people, smacking each other with sticks and stones.
Oh, boy.
Dumb Xenos race, who gives a shit, and they bail. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks. Well, they decided to actually have no war of any kind and all just unite together under one flag of the Tau Empire. And now they have gigantic starships and Gundam robots and lasers and railguns and mechs, and they are here to ruin your day for the greater good. That is generally the Tau Empire. They have this kind of feeling of this homogenous group. All species can go underneath the banner of the greater good. The greater good is their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all. In fact, they are most likely the most like the Covenant in Halo, where they have the overarching prophets, being the ethereals, who are actually kind of dicks and like to pull at strings a little bit, but then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that tries to spread their weirdly pseudo-religious influence across the galaxy. The alien is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him, his ignorance. Seek to understand his
They're all so
differences
entitled.
and embrace him with his inadequacies.
Ours
Only then will
is
he
the
accept
way.
his place in the greater good. That is generally the Tau. And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, well, they're all about big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles and rail guns. They got giant mechs with tons of missile pods and heavy rail rifles and rail guns and burst cannons and
They're
ion
cool.
accelerators and void
I really like the
shields and all this
style.
stuff. And that is generally what the Tau's all about. But you're probably thinking, Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil. This doesn't sound very grim, dark Warhammer.
Space
And you'd be
weebs.
right. The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying, grim, dark style like everybody else. They're much more younger, new age thing. In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in the day because they liked having like the good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So, see, the Tau get a lot of hate, and a lot of that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective, but as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently, they don't really fit in the 40k universe very well. They lack that super dark, dramatic, kind of high gothic level the Imperium has.
Well,
They
yeah,
don't have
but
the
I like
weird
how
kind
original
of like
they are.
grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orcs do.
I mean, different
and
is
the
good.
Necrons and the Eldar have their own specific style as well. The Tau really do look like something out of Gundam. And while it isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does
They're more like Overwatch kind of a thing, you know, something that I'm used to playing Overwatch. I mean, just the style is a bit more, how to say this? It's like Well, yeah, it's something more modern, not like he said, less gothic, but I just, like that not only the Tao, but all the factions are so unique and so different. They all have their style and their ways and their, even their fighting style, even how their freaking organs function. I mean, everything is just so detailed, and I don't have anything against any faction because I'm just fascinated with all of them because of how rich and original they are. So yeah, I can appreciate all of them. Although you probably don't like them, some of them. I don't know, guys. You're gonna tell me, I'm sure, but uh, I personally have no dislikes. Like I can't say, well, I don't like anybody or not anybody, but I don't like this or that faction, just because they all have some kind of a role and something unique about them. So they kind of, well, you can say that they're kind of boring compared to the others, but I still see, kind of like where they're coming from. They're kind of naive, you can say. I mean, they're all races have to strive towards, like I said, some kind of a betterment, because if they're all on negative, they're just gonna create more negative. And the Tau are like the opposite, but they're misled in a way and they're naive in that way. So you have to, try to be good and not fake to be good, but they're like faking to be good, you know what I mean? They're not true because they're misled to think that they're thinking right, but actually they're not. So yeah, it's just this fine line between what is really the right way or the good way and what is, wow, we don't understand really everything, so we're just gonna fake it because this is our understanding. It's just so surface based. Just how I take them so far. But yeah, we'll see when I learn more about them. Maybe I'm gonna change my mind, but so far just my impression.
Definitely not fit too well. There's that. There's also the tabletop problem. In tabletop, Tau are horrible at melee combat, but exceptionally good at range combat. So they blast
those robots
everyone
look
from really,
awesome.
really far away, and they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat. So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun,
Yeah,
they're
you
going to
see
win
the
every
rockets.
time because they're the Tau, and the Tau are really damn good at shooting. So it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated, and a lot of different reasons for that, both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their issues, you should not be discouraged from playing them. I'll make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes, of course I will, but it's all generally in good fun. Anyone who legitimately doesn't want you to play a faction is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day. You pick what you think is cool and what you like. In Warhammer, especially now, factions get better and they get worse. They grow and then they fall. You should only be playing what you think is cool. You like the look, you like the models. If you're talking tabletop, that is what you should be going for every time, is what you think is badass, because things change all the time. But the universe of Warhammer has so much going for it. Every faction has something interesting, every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told. The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in these two videos, if anything you can take away is the reason why so many of us are so into this series and why we like it so much. Because with so much variety, such an expansive universe, and so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time. Thank you so much for watching
Yeah,
this video. I hope
that
it
was
has been
it, guys.
informative to you.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was super awesome. So now let's check your comments, guys, before I go. Oh, there's so many things, and I personally can't wait for that TV show that it's in the making. Hopefully it's not gonna be delayed too much, considering the circumstances right now. The show about this awesome Inquisitor. Have to learn more about that and maybe cover it. That's kind of like in my to-do list now. Okay, let's see what your guys are saying. Well, I didn't mean naive in that way that they're stupid and they don't know what they're doing. I mean naive in the way that how they perceive the universe, because they're the youngest race and they just have this ideal, but this ideal doesn't really fit to how the universe is actually working at the moment, and all the other races are so much older and they seen so much more crap. And so the vision of the Tao, although in a way it's better, is not really practice, Jesus, it's not really practical or applicable in the way that they want it, because they're not really taking into account everything that happened and everything that could happen. That's what I mean by naive. I don't mean that they're stupid. I just mean that because they're younger race, they maybe cannot grasp, the world and the universe the way that we can, or the elder can. That's just what I mean. Okay, so I'm trying to catch up as much as I can. Yeah, and yeah, they that greater good thing. That's like I've said, they're faking good. That's what I meant as well. Yeah, and since you said that there's other part of the lore, that's why I also said that I want to, dive into the lore more. I'm doing that every day, so give me time. And I'm going to get a better zoomed out perspective of everyone, and I'm gonna make some conclusions, of course, out of that, and I'm going to generally know more. Yeah, Ivy. They aren't so hopeful. Yeah, but I think that it takes a bit of time to catch up with everyone, That's for sure. And as well, you have to have in mind that their experience with the universe is not the same compared to the experience that humans have, the Elder have. Like I said, all of the other races, even the freaking orcs, are so just seeing so much more. And the Tao just never went through all of that. They never seen all of the things that we seen, or the orcs, or that's what I mean. So the different level of experience is what just prohibits them to have, maybe a bit less of a naive perception of the universe. And once again, do not take naive as stupid, but just lack of that much of experience, and from there their perception of everything. Maybe they need to be a bit more mature. Yeah, let's just say that. Yeah, now I can take a nap. You're right. I have to go to bed. uh Oh wow, you wrote so many stuff. Thanks, Orda. I know about the text-to-speech thing. I'm trying to get to it. I have so many things recommended by you guys. I have, just so many things. I can't really begin even to list them, but I have them. I wrote them down. So I'm going to one by one. I just wanted to get through Bricky's videos because they're awesome and they're one of my favorites, and this was the first thing that was most requested. So next thing, we'll see what is going to be. That the text-to-speech has been persistent as well, since your guys say that it's a hilarious thing. Thank you, Beta. Purge of humans? Is there a purge of humans? Thank you, hater. I'm trying to scroll without missing a comment, but sometimes it just goes like whoop. Okay. Okay, I get it with the text to speech. I promise I will watch it. What kinds of games do I enjoy? I enjoy everything that is third person and first person AAA games, and right now I am playing Warhammer 40k Space Marine. If you haven't seen that, I have a third stream. I mean, I'm already in the third stream into the game, and as far as I know, it's not that long, so maybe I'm gonna be able to finish it soon. I'm playing like 1-2 hours a stream, and I really love it. It's an older game, but I really love it. So yeah, but such games I do enjoy that are third person or first person. So yeah, I mean Assassin's Creed, Valhalla, let's say, that is the thing that I'm waiting for the most now. I have a PlayStation 4. I've played Last of Us, made the reviews here on the channel. I finished also Ghost of Tsushima. And yeah, so I'm PC gamer and I'm PS4 gamer, so to speak, console, but PlayStation. So yeah, Gears of War actually, when I played the Space Marine, I was like, wow, this is so much like Gears of War, but then somebody told me that Gears of War was inspired by Warhammer in the Space Marines, so I was like, well, if that's true, makes sense, makes sense, because they're similar in the way that they look. Okay, what else, guys? Trying to not miss anything. Okay. Okay. During the so they caught up during the Democles Crusade, which I have to check as well. What's that about? Shock therapy. Okay. Night, Judas. Night to you. Yeah, what Ivy said. Oh, I have to return to Detroit Become Human, but I'm just so into Warhammer now. But Detroit Become Human is just a very sophisticated game. I have to finish it at some point. Okay. Destroy warp. Okay, I see. Oh, okay, Simon. Really? Oh, Malik, hi to you. You caught the end of the stream. Okay, I still have to watch The Death of Hope, the episode, I mean the short movie itself. I already reacted to the trailers, but the itself creation, I have to see that. I have it loaded on my browser. It's not that long, so I have to see it. It's in the work, so to speak. I mean, it's in the program, in the program, in my Warhammer program, and all of those things. Okay, so that is it, guys. I see no questions. Thank you very much for watching and tuning into that stream. And as always, although I already have a long list, you can just write in the comments after the stream and let me know what you want to see from Warhammer for me to cover, and I'm going to go and do that as fast as I can, of course. And that's it. You can check out the links down below if you'd like to support me, my OnlyFans, and for everybody that are add-on, Jesus Christ, I'm so sleepy. For all of you that are, subscribers there, I'm going to get the new video out tomorrow. Xena channel, new topic, new video again tomorrow. And here, I'm gonna see what I'm going to do here. I really wanted to rest a bit, but I will not rest. I'm gonna do videos. I'm gonna do Warhammer. So we'll see what we're going to do tomorrow. Jesus Christ. I could speak earlier, but now I can't because it's very late. So yeah, that is it. Thank you guys. It's been awesome, and Warhammer for me is just getting more and more interesting, and I'm just gonna you know, watch and listen to a ton of Warhammer stuff while I'm going to bed. So that is it. Kisses and hugs, guys. And yeah, till next time with me, Gary G. Reviews. Bye bye.